Amen. Amen.
So I guess we could start from the beginning, Steve. So let's say someone's watching, right, and they're thinking about starting a business. Maybe they even already did start a business. How should they go about registering their business and making that segue over while they're still an employee?
So the first thing you want to do, and I'm going to start with this. He was talking about him being a W-2 employee and then doing a side gig, side hustle. So, I would imagine that this show is going to be speaking to you guys. So if you're going to do something like that, there's a specific way to go about doing it. And it's an area that always causes a lot of confusion.
Yes.
So I'll
mess me up too.
Yeah. So when I was like in my early 20s, I started a business with my brother. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't have access to YouTube and videos and like that. So the first thing we did to start our corporation in New York State, no less, was see a lawyer. And we winded up spending $2,500, and we only had like $20,000 collectively to spend on this business venture.
Mm-hmm.
So we started there, and he got us incorporated, gave us a book of like stock certificates with a stamp on it, and I brought this. It was really good looking, like hard covered binder for my corporate documents and all this stuff. And I thought, oh, this is all I needed. I wasn't a CPA at the time, so then I had to go see a CPA, and the CPA said, "Yeah, never do that again." And I said, "Well, why?" He goes, "Well, you just wasted your time. You don't need stock certificates unless you're going to sell them." I said, "Well, it's just me and my brother." He goes, "Well, you don't need that." He goes, "All you need to do is get an EIN number," and then he made us an S corp. So he basically walked us through the process of what I'm going to talk about today.
Okay.
And kind of what we talked about when you were starting your fitness business
and
you were structured as an LLC. So most people think that, I got an LLC and it equates to tax savings. An LLC does not equate to tax savings. An LLC is just a form of entity that you can form. You could do it in every state has their own limited liability company. You just get on the State Department and you can, and this is what we're going to talk about in my channel in more detail. But that's the first step you do is you select a name that no one else has in that state. You form your LLC, make sure that name is available. You pay your fee online. Typically at the Department of State, they all pretty much have the same type of format and website.
Yeah.
And
every state is different, state by state.
Yeah. And then you get your articles of organization back. So now with that LLC, what you want to do is you want to make it an S corp. The only reason I would tell you to keep and stay as an LLC is if you want to invest in rental real estate property.
Bam.
So that's what you have.
So that's very important because I made that mistake. So a big mistake that a lot of people make, right? You come from the W-2 world, right? Where you have a regular job, right? And you're like, okay, they take my taxes out for me. I don't got to worry about anything. And then you go over to entrepreneurship. The first thing people do is they think I'm going to make an LLC, but you're saying, no, you can start with the LLC, but what you need to do is transition it over to an S corp.
Yes.
Especially when you're a W-2 employee. Can you tell the people why that's so critical and why that's so important? Because I made that mistake myself in the beginning.
So if you're going to invest in real estate property, for every property that you have, you want to have a separate LLC. You want to separate those to gain the maximum amount of protection because that protects you and your personal assets from the actual asset that is over that particular rental property.
Yeah.
And let's say you have an incident where the tenant comes out and maybe they fall and break their ankle or break their knee or whatever, and they want to sue. So they can only sue the LLC of that particular property. You may have multiple properties such as yourself, where they can't reach over that. So it's limited liability. Lawyers started the limited liability in most states. And the reason why they did it is because they went into practice together and they were partners and they didn't want each other's clients that may sue them coming after each other. So it limited the liability for each.
Okay.
That's really
actually how it started.
Of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they applied it to real estate as well.
Okay.
But you could get the best of both worlds because if you're going to operate a business where you're operating, you're getting income from an operational business, not a rental property, then that's where you want to take that LLC and convert it into an S corp.
I think the first person I heard talk about LLCs was Robert Kiyosaki. Obviously speaking, wants to protect your assets.
Right.
But
real estate,
we didn't know how to really do it or how it made sense for us as regular business owners.
So it's okay for them to start off with, create the LLC, right? They can go on their website, do it. Don't hire an attorney, do it. You can literally do it by yourself. I know LegalZoom will let you do it.
You could do LegalZoom if you want to, you don't really need to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do
because you've done it for me a bunch of times. It takes like 10, 15 minutes, not even to create an LLC. It's very easy, guys. You go on the website and you do it. You pay the filing fee. You get your articles of organization, which is basically Think of it as like the documents that prove you have a real business entity now. Once you have that, how long can they have the LLC before they switch it over to an S corp? In your opinion?
So there's a time limit on that. So you can I've taken it out into 2 years where you can get like elect for forgiveness. But there's certain things that you have to mark you should do it as soon as possible. Okay. And a lot of times I get clients because again, they go to an attorney, they form an LLC, and then at the end of the year when they come see me, I ask them, "Are you an S corp?" And they're like, "I don't know what are you talking about." Yeah, I think I am, right? And I'm like, "Okay, let me check. Did your attorney fill out these forms?" Well, 9 times out of 10 they don't,
because lawyers don't know anything about taxes.
Yeah, and we're coming in maybe a year and 3 months or so later, and then I have to fill out the forms, and then they have now a provision because it's so common that the IRS actually added on their form 2 sections where you could just check the box and say, we're doing a late filing election. So
you start off with LLC, so they got to get it, hopefully get it done within a year, right? And you're saying up
typically
to 2 years.
A year, yeah. You can to 2 years, but you got to make sure that certain forms were filed in a certain way.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into that in detail, but that's typically most cases, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a year later, and we could pretty much get the S corp.
And I remember election. With me, like I was almost at the end of my time limit,
right?
And we switched it to an S corp right before, because I had a LLC guys that I had started for my fitness business, and then Steve saw I got Steve as an accountant, and then he saw I was set up, and he was like, "Dude, you still have a W-2 job and you have an LLC. What are you doing?" And then we switched over to an S corp, and we'll talk about that here in a second, guys. Real quick, all the chats that come in, we're gonna read them. I'm gonna read them here in a second. But go ahead and get your questions in, guys, because this is a fantastic opportunity for you guys to ask a real CPA who works with real clients who, from a small business angle and real estate, you can ask them all your questions. So all those questions you guys ask us about starting a business and everything else like that, today's the day to ask these questions. So going back to the LLC, so you do it within a year, sometimes up to 2 if you have certain things in place. So why is it so important to switch over to an S corp from that initial LLC that they create?
Great question. So because so first off, let me skip back just a second. The LLC for rental property is okay because they construe that as passive income. So that's not subject to self-employment tax.
Okay.
So those are okay because you're going to have a special schedule on your 1040. We don't need to file an S corp return. We just put the rental income, rental expenses.
So having a real estate property under an LLC is appropriate. However, when we're talking about an S corp, an actual business, different.
Right. So now that's where if you don't make the S corp election, you have to put all of that business activity, the income and all the business expenses and the profit right inside of your 1040 on a Schedule C form. And I think we had a show and we talked about this. That's the #1 audited form in the entire IRS. That's the one that probably 75% of people that get their 1040 audited.
And what is a 1040 form?
1040 is your personal income tax return that everybody that has a job and you get, you're making over a certain amount that you have to report your income on a form 1040. Okay. So if you have a side hustle and it's an LLC and you didn't make it an S corp, then you have to put your business activity in your 1040 on a certain schedule called a Schedule C. And that schedule is what is the most audited schedule. It's like out of all of the forms that get audited in the IRS, it's the #1. Yeah, I detest it. Like everybody that does that, I'm like, you need like some people are like well past the time limit to do an S corp election, and I make them form a new corporation with a brand new name, with a brand new EIN number, open up a brand new, and it's a pain in the ass, but I'm like, listen, you're going to thank me for this later because you need to file a separate form.
Gotcha. So if they don't, let's say they stick with that LLC and they have their business and they have their W-2 job, that LLC income now has to be put in their 1040, which they're also earning income from their job, and that can mess them up.
Correct.
So you're basically putting both of your income streams on one form that shouldn't be put for 2 different income streams, and that form is the most audited by the IRS.
Correct. There's 2 departments of they call it they don't even call it auditing, they call it examination. So there's 2 examination departments. One that is in charge of auditing personal income tax returns, which are the 1040s, and with that comes the Schedule C in there. So that gives them jurisdiction over your business. I've had people come into my office with like their top line for gross revenue was over $1 million. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You're filing this on your personal return. So now you have a guy auditing a pretty good sized company that really doesn't have a lot of experience in the IRS, and they're going through everything, and they could turn your world upside down.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you see what I mean?
Yo, where are y'all gonna get sauce like this anywhere else, bro? You would have to bring an actual real and here's the other thing. A lot of accountants aren't gonna share this with y'all. They might not know this stuff. Like, this is a big mistake that a lot of people do. They start off a business, it does really well, or maybe even they make an extra $30,000, $40,000 a year. Well, guess what? It gets put on your personal tax return with your regular job, and that is the most audited form. And then they're like, yo, what the hell? You got all this extra income. What's going on? And then next thing you know, bam, you're getting audited, because they don't look at it like it's a business, right? They look at it like, this is, wait, you're making more money now. What's going on here?
Right.
And if you don't know, you don't know. It's funny because when I spoke to Steve for the first time, I was like, Steve, please, I don't want to end up like Wesley Snipes. Please save me, bro.
And stuff like this will literally jam you up. So, okay. So